Hi, I'm Bob Trask. This is our weekly reset. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in absolute bliss, like in joy? And of course, if that was there all the time, there'd be no contrast. So, I mean, if you were to live in bliss and joy all the time, I think that must have been what it was have been like in that great mythological story, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. You can imagine the two of them just kind of laying around on a grassy bank looking out at a beautiful river with beautiful fish swimming and flowers in the trees, and that was forever and ever and ever and ever and ever with no end, ever, and there's no downside, no darkness, no sadness, no sorrow, nothing. you know that would not be bliss, because happiness is in comparison to something. Dark is dark because of light, and sorrow is sorrow because of happiness. But there's an area of permanence that is just a knowing who you are and knowing your value, and to knowing, not only knowing, but being aware, deep inside of you, being aware that you are good and that all is good, and that all is perfect as it is. And still there'd be ups and downs. Still there'd be light and dark. Still there'd be pain and sorrow. But underneath all that would be a knowledge of how beautiful life is. And and I think that that would be true if we could go back and look at those great leaders, the metaphysical leaders, the spiritual leaders of all time. They all said one pretty common thing, and that's that nothing is everything. Emptiness is everything. And they all talked about that. Emptiness is everything. That's kind of bewildering, isn't it? Because our lives have always been about more, about getting more and feeling more and doing more and experiencing more. I mean, that's why we buy all the stuff, and that's why we eat things that taste good to us, and that's why we go to movies and go to dances and listen to music, because we want to feel more and more and more. And it's cool to feel more and more and more and do more and more, but sometimes we accumulate stuff and it piles on and piles on. And then after a while, there's no boundaries and no limitations, because that feeling of bliss, that feeling of goodness becomes less and less able to be found. And so we feel like I need to get more and more and more in order for me to feel that. Non-being is a vital part of consciousness, and it's one that can allow us to live in complete freedom. Consciousness, non-being, gives us the ability to live in complete freedom. A leading authority on Zen Buddhism. Now, why am I going to quote Zen Buddhism? Why am I going to quote? Because Buddha really saw the truth. He really saw the way. And Daisetsu Suzuki, who was a leading authority on Buddhism, taught for many, many, many years, said emptiness, which may be mistaken for sheer nothingness, is in fact the reservoir of infinite possibilities. So if what I want is more possibilities, and that is what I want. I mean, I don't want my abilities and my possibilities and my potentials to be narrowed. I don't want it to become a river that narrows down to like a funnel. I want it to be expanding. I want there to be more possibilities. Emptiness, says Daisetsu Suzuki, is in fact the reservoir of infinite possibilities, emptiness. Then should we seek nothingness? And hey, if we emptied ourselves of all of our senses, of all our thoughts, would we even be alive? Do you think? No thoughts, no touch, no sound, no sights? Holy smokes, that's pretty drastic. Yet, and I agree, we need to be able to see, to hear, to feel, to touch, to smell, to taste. We need that. But let's face it, this favorite food that we eat, the thing that we really love, when we put it in our mouth, does it taste the way it used to taste? Or does it taste not quite as rich, not quite as fulfilling, not quite as ecstatic as it used to feel? Why? Because we just load more and more and more on, and we forget to be empty. We forget to be pure. Many of the world's master meditators are very often in emptiness, No thought. They're just hanging out in emptiness. And is their life less? Well, let's check that out. Studies show that meditators are healthier. Studies show that they have better relationships. Studies show that meditators are more financially content. And studies show that meditators live longer. So if we could let go of the jumble that most of us call life, we'd not only be more alive, we'd find our lives much more worth living. So what's the jumble in your life? What's the jumble in my life? What's the stuff that we stack up that keeps us from being simple and open and aware, completely aware of reality? What is that stuff? Let's look at silence and emptiness not as non-living, but as living more fully. Because then our senses of smell and sight and hearing and taste and touch would be more intense and much more deeply beautiful. As an example, an empty painter's canvas, just visualize that with me. Here's the painter, and he's standing before his canvas, and it's completely empty. That means it has unlimited possibilities. Now this painter turns around and he has another easel behind him. He turns around and faces that easel, and it's also got a canvas on it, and it's loaded. There is no emptiness anywhere on it. It's full of strokes and colors and forms, and it's got paint over paint over paint over paint, and it's not only no longer interesting, it also doesn't have any potential for new beauty, for new expression, for new reality, for new tastes and touches and smells. We're talking about changing our individual perspectives, aren't we? We're talking about, as you and I look at life, we see what we see. We smell what we smell, taste what we taste, hear what we hear. All of our senses, we sense what we sense. And we see that viewpoint, that perspective as really important. And the reason we see it so important is because we think that's who we are. See, when we were born, when we were little babies, we were empty. We were an empty canvas. And the stuff that got painted on there, did we paint it on there? Did our parents paint it on there? And did they say, this is who you are? And they painted the paint stroke on there and they said, this is who you are. And then this is who you are. And then this is who you are. And then when you got old enough to relate to other people and to relate to other situations, those relationships, those perspectives had to fit with all the stuff that was already on your canvas. It had to fit with who you thought you were. So they got kind of altered. Each one of those experiences got kind of altered and twisted so that it would fit. So after a while, there is nothing real about any of this stuff. This is our perspective. This is how we see it. And we may have a friend, we may have a brother or a sister, or we may even have a twin, but we still are going to see things and feel things and smell things and taste things differently. Even though we might agree on what we see or hear, in truth, we're seeing things differently. What that means, of course, is that we're each looking through our own individual filters, those filters of who we think we are. I want to come back to that because it's really important. Who you think you are, who I think I am, that's not truth. Who you think you are is not who you are. That's not who you are. That's not. That's a really limited little image of who you are. You are so much more than that. But you were taught who you were, and you embellished that and piled on more and more and more stuff on top of that in order to justify that. And again, you have justified that. And every argument that you've ever had with anybody was to justify your own sense of who you think you are, your opinion, your beliefs, your memories. All that stuff. One way of looking at this is to pretend that you and I are looking at a landscape. And you can only see the left-hand side, and I can only see the right-hand side. That's all we can see. Well, neither of us can see the whole thing. But we both think we're seeing it all. Because I see what I see, and I think that's it. And you see what you see, and you think that's it. And you're a Republican, and I'm a Democrat. And you're a Catholic, and I'm a Jew. And you're a Muslim, and I'm a Jew. Now, what if there's 10 people looking at this landscape? And each of those 10 people can only see 1/10 of the scene. Yet each of those 10 thinks they're seeing it all. Each of them is seeing only what's visible through their individual filters. That can be rewarding when we have the humility and the cleanliness of mind to let go of our beliefs and our opinions and come back to the empty slate, to come back to emptiness, come back to nothingness, and let our opinions and all of that stuff just go, and then really hear each other when they speak, really see each other, really behold each other. Then what happens is that as I'm hearing you speak, your opinions, your thoughts, who you think you are, all become available to me. And I expand that. Now you saw the left side, I saw the right side. Now I'm beginning to see your side as well. So I'm expanding. So it can be rewarding if we have the humility to let go of our opinions and really listen to each other. Here's why. Think of your opinions, your beliefs, your memories. Even your memories are not accurate. Like anyone who's a trial attorney knows that memories are not accurate. People who were eyewitnesses to a scene are often wrong. 30% of people who are found not guilty after they've been sentenced to prison found out that the reason that they were not guilty is that the eyewitnesses were wrong. They were eyewitnesses. They saw that, but they saw through their filters. They didn't see the reality. There was a test done once when 5 people were taken to a street corner in New York. One was a policeman, one was a school teacher, one was a minister, one was a doctor, one was a housewife. And they were all stood on the thing, and they were given a piece of paper and a pencil. And they were said, you've got 15 minutes, write down the kind of people you see, write down what you see. Well, obviously, at the end of that, you had 5 completely different things. The policeman saw pickpockets and thieves, and everybody saw something different because that was their viewpoint, that's their filters. We're not seeing truth if we look through our filters. We're not. We're not. We've got these funny glasses on with all of these fractures and images and colors, and we think that that's truth, and it's not truth. So let's try this. Think of your individual viewpoint as a color, and maybe of several colors. And all of these other people in the world, they have their own viewpoints. So think of those as colors. So those are all colors. So if we all got together and shared our viewpoints openly, cleanly, with nothingness, with emptiness, with the silence of our minds, and we all saw clearly, then the final mix of all those colors would be pure white. That's the truth. If you mix all colors together, it's white. That's nothingness, which is everything, which is all. And then we'd all be one with all. And that's what Buddha, Jesus, Lao Tzu, every great spiritual teacher, Muhammad, every great spiritual teacher became one with all. And here's another way of looking at nothing being everything. We're so busy looking at things, we don't see what's most important. In this world, there's one singularity from which everything else comes, one absolute from which everything else comes. We don't pay any attention to it because we don't even know it's there. And that one absolute, that one singularity is space. So we see the mountain, but we don't pay attention to the space between us and the mountain because the space is invisible. And incidentally, I'm not seeing the same mountain you are. We can agree on that it's a pretty mountain. We can agree on the way that old avalanche came down, left a scar on the side. We can see all, but we're still not seeing the same mountain. We're not feeling inside of ourselves the event of that mountain the same. We're feeling it differently. And we listen to music, but we don't hear the silence in the music. We don't see space around us, and we don't hear the silence in the music. You're surrounded right now by space, and that space is the singularity, it's the absoluteness of this life, of reality, space. And music and sound and noise, traffic, everything, we hear that, but we don't hear the silence in it. The silence that gives voice to sound. Beethoven, fantastic composer. Oh my God, Beethoven. I have such respect for him. Imagine that in the last years of his life, he was writing symphonies, unbelievable music, and he was stone deaf. Deaf, and yet he could write. How could he do that? He knew that the genius of silence is what makes music so beautiful, so touching, so heartbreakingly beautiful and amazing. He used silence. He talked about that. That the silence between notes was more valuable than the notes. He used that silence to give expression to the music. From Dr. Tony Nader's book, Consciousness is All There Is, comes this paragraph. On the surface levels, based on our sensory experience, material objects seem real. At the bottom, beneath all, is infinite, unbounded nothingness. At the bottom, beneath all of what we see and hear and think, is infinite, unbounded nothingness from which all comes. So if you and I have been striving to get something, whether it's a new relationship or a greater relationship or a new adventure or better health or even some material something, it's possible we've been shopping with our cart so full that nothing else will fit in. And even if we get that thing, could we truly appreciate it? Or have we been so jaded by our load of stuff and experiences that we no longer can really sense the beauty, the thrill of the ecstasy of that thing? Because that thing isn't like any other thing. There's no two anythings in the universe. There's no, if you could go to the farthest planet and find an almost microscopic mote of dust, I promise you, there is no other mote of dust in this entire universe that's exactly like that one. There's no two anythings that are exactly alike. And if you crave to taste something or see something or do something or have something or experience something, and that comes to you, it's the only thing ever that ever existed. But if we just see it as another one of those things, then we're empty. Mary and I have a friend, he's passed now, and he lived in Missouri, and his wife said, let's go out to Washington and out to the West. And he said, why? She said, God, there's just gorgeous mountains out there. And he said, I never will forget this. He said, if you've seen one mountain, you've seen them all. I feel so sorry for that guy. He was dead and he didn't know enough to lay down. I swear, there is so much new, brand new. First time you've ever tasted chocolate, first time you've ever tasted a strawberry, first time you've ever made love, first time you've ever seen a sunrise or a sunset, first time you've ever heard a baby laugh, first time. That's waiting for you. If we empty our carts now, if we empty our minds and our lives of the stuff we so value, the identity of ourselves that we so value, we might find a joy we could never see before, brand new. That's because with an empty cart, we'll discover that who we are is pure awareness, pure consciousness, pure joy, our self, capital S, self. And that's the self that lives not in noise or motion or objects, but in stillness and in silence. And in that stillness and silence, there's an expression to life, an expression of all the forms of life that's not there unless we're quiet. So if we could be just empty canvases now, empty, upon which to paint our lives anew each day, well, then this taste of a strawberry will be fresh, a brand new experience, and the sound of music will thrill us now, new. And if your home has become a commonplace, it'll become a thrill again. And if the car you're driving is not still that car that once delighted you, then you can get that delight back. So many of us are in relationships with our spouses or our friends or our relatives and families that after years and years, that relationships are ordinary. But when we first met our spouses, when we first met this friend, when we fell in love, because we saw something that enchanted us, they weren't ordinary then. Are they ordinary now? Are they still enchanting? And if so, why are we not enchanted? Because we've lost our emptiness. We've lost the canvas that was blank upon which life could paint itself. Can we get that back? Are we willing to let go of our stuff? I don't mean you have to have a garage sale and sell everything in your home. I'm not saying that. I'm saying take a look at that thing, whatever it is, and remember why you bought it, why it was given to you. And if it doesn't have any value, if it doesn't inspire joy, send it out to someone else who can find that joy. Get rid of it. Unload yourself of that stuff that no longer pleases you, no longer thrills you. To some degree, we are all hoarders. And we're hoarders of our memories as well. And we're hoarders of our experiences. And our memories, like I said before, are not true because we saw them and we still look back at them even with new filters. Because as we grow older, our filters become even more occluded. And after a while, we're looking back at old memories and we're not even seeing those memories as they once were. We're seeing them as we think they are from this viewpoint. Let go of that junk. Get rid of that stuff. Get rid of those beliefs and those opinions. Our lives are so filled to the brim with stuff, because we're afraid to be empty. We're afraid to be empty. We're afraid to be in that silence of emptiness. But if we were, then we would allow a new life to fill us. If you see a little sweet baby, 6 months old, is that baby empty? That baby is an open slate. That baby is a pure, clean canvas. It's so beautiful. That's what's so beautiful about the little ones, is that they're so pure. We can be pure again. If we can just stop being busy, stop being worrying, stop thinking about our stuff. Some say that it'd be like dying. Well, St. Paul, who created Christianity, said, I die daily. And Eckhart Tolle, who's one of our masterminds in this movement, said, we must die before we die. And here's what they're saying. Let go of the stuff so you can become new and fresh in life. Buddha and Jesus and Lao Tzu and the greatest spiritual masters of all time said to live fully, we must let go of our viewpoint and become born anew. So how do we do that? How do we stop fearing emptiness and feel the blessings of peaceful silence? Here's 2 suggestions. Number 1, in silence, after we're through today, in silence, just once you stop, don't go somewhere else or go turn on the TV. Just stop for a minute. For 60 seconds, I'm asking you for 60 seconds. For 60 seconds, tap your hand in rhythm that feels right for you. Just keep it going for 1 full minute, for 60 seconds. And don't stop, because the rhythm might change. And when you're through, what you probably discovered was your rhythm. Your rhythm. That's your rhythm. That's the rhythm you're comfortable with. That's the rhythm that dances in your heart. And if you're living that rhythm daily, then you're moving forward in a sense of allowing, of openness, of bringing newness in. But if not, then you're allowing the world to pull you into its conflicting rhythms or someone else's rhythm. So let's practice living in our rhythms. And secondly, meditate. Please meditate. Please meditate. And some people say, well, I can't meditate. Everyone can meditate. Well, when I sit down to meditate, I get all these thoughts coming in. Fine, let all those thoughts come in, but sit quietly and watch your breath. Breathe in through your nose and to the best of your ability for at least 5 minutes. And then 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, however long, as many times a day as you can, at least once or twice. Breathe in through your nose and just watch your breath. Just pay attention to your breathing. And if those thoughts come, hey, we all had that in the beginning. Some of us had that for weeks, some of us had that for months, but eventually the thoughts went away and we became empty. Please meditate. The great spiritual master that I mentioned before, Lao Tzu, was born 600 years before Jesus, and he's still revered internationally. He's still revered because he is a master, and his mind was so clean and clear. So this great consciousness that we're talking about didn't just occur in the last 20 or 30 years or 2,000 years. It's been going on eternally and forever. And Lao Tzu said this to you and to me: become totally empty. Quiet the restlessness of your mind. Only then will you witness everything unfolding from emptiness. And M. Scott Peck, famous author of The Road Less Traveled, said, "We cannot let another person into our hearts or mind unless we empty ourselves." Let me repeat that. We cannot let another person into our hearts or mind unless we empty ourselves. We can truly listen to him or truly hear her only out of our emptiness. Only out of our emptiness. My dear friend, thank you for being with me. I hope that today's talk has helped, and I hope that you'll find the courage and the self-discipline to begin unloading yourself of the stuff that's not you until you get back to who you really are. Emptiness. That beautiful, clean canvas upon which life is painting itself. Stop by bobtrask.com and leave a donation, please, to help me continue my work. And know that I send you forward today with my love.